Roll call, please. Whoever gets to do it.
You want me doing this, Suzanne, or were you doing this? What are we doing?
All right, Chairman Hewitt,
Here.
Vice Chairman Glass,
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy is absent, Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Fertig,
Here.
Commissioner Say,
Here.
and Commissioner Putnam.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, first item on the consent calendar is everybody had a chance to look at the minutes, and any motion on the minutes?
So we're not consenting to the whole consent calendar?
No.
Okay. Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay. Moved in second for the two sets of minutes we have before us. Any discussion? Seeing none? Call for the vote.
I'll do it while Suzanne is working on that. Chairman Hewitt,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Glass,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy, Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam.
Yes.
Commissioner Fertig, yes.
Oh, yes, sorry. You weren't on my list.
What's his name?
Thank you.
Okay, the second part that's on the consent calendar, recommended action, excuse me, for, what is it called? The findings to hold remote teleconferencing and virtual planning commission meetings. Would anybody like to make a motion to either reinstate that or forego it, for lack of a better term?
I'll make a motion to forego it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved in
But I do
second.
have
Any
a-
discussion?
Yes, please. What is the staff recommendation on this? Is it to continue? I mean, is this a policy the staff recommends we keep in place?
Well, if I could, for this meeting, yes, because this meeting, we've still noticed it with that in place, so we've noticed it to the public that if they want to participate virtually, they have the ability to do that for this meeting. I think going forward, that is the question, because then we can take the noticing provisions into effect. I can tell you the council has decided to continue to do it, because to discontinuing it, to go back to it at a later date if there's a reason to down the road later in the year. If for some reason we have to go back to ramp back up, created some problems, and legal counsel for council advised them to continue it and to continue reading it. So I don't know if Isaac has any input on that, but that's what,
That's probably enough right there.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I withdraw my second.
Would you, anybody withdraw
I'll
their
make a motion to keep it on the agenda,
Okay, so
keep it going.
keep it going. Is there a
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Thanks for that clarification.
sure,
It
yeah,
makes-
it's,
it
believe
makes a
me,
big-
it's,
Yeah.
it's
seems-
something council wanted to do also,
It
but
seemed like
I
the
don't know,
benefits were going lower and lower, and the advantages didn't seem to be there, but I think, in light of what you just said,
Well, I just feel that we've all been here since
yeah.
I'm with
forever,
you.
way before, and
Yeah.
that we're here, and that sometimes it just bottlenecks everything
Right.
with the technology that we have, and
The internet goes out, we have to
Yeah.
have a special meeting, we have to leave our jobs again, we have to come back here again. I understand what you're
I
saying.
think
Because
everything is
I think we're to the
opening
point that
back up
people can
and,
come to a meeting again.
yeah,
Life has gone
so
on.
that's why I still stand by.
Okay, and this one was noticed for it. so-
Right, no, of
yeah.
course this one, but I'm just saying going forward, I still make that motion.
Okay.
And I would second your motion, Your
Okay, now we have two motions, both seconded. So let's, if we had, the first motion, the second was withdrawn, then we had a motion to approve it. and then that was seconded, so let's vote on that one first.
You're right, the motion that should be on the floor is the motion to continue it. and
So
then-
yes means continue, no means discontinue.
Correct.
The reason I say no is we've been back here doing this for 6, 8 months. It's time the public comes out of hiding and comes to a meeting too. I mean,
Okay.
and that way we're not doing double meetings when the internet goes down. That would be my,
Okay, so any further discussion?
Go along with the council, but I see your points.
So yes means keep.
Yes
Okay.
means continue it,
Continue.
no means discontinue it.
Okay. Ready
Call
ready
for
for
a
roll?
vote, please.
Okay, Chairman Hewitt,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Glass,
no.
Commissioner Kennedy, Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
No.
Commissioner Putnam,
No.
Commissioner Furtick.
Yes.
So a tie means it didn't pass.
Time means it didn't pass, and that's
So we
that's
can-
going to the next meeting, so
Right.
it does
Okay.
not apply to this meeting, so.
Okay.
So I think since we have the motion on the floor, or the second motion, in favor of not, since this motion didn't pass because it was a tie, we should move forward with the motion to effectuate essentially the same thing, which is
Okay.
the motion to not approve, Commissioner Say's recommendation to not approve the findings.
With the slight difference that this one, yes means no, and no means yes.
Sounds like government.
Okay.
We just
And
voted
everybody
on this
gets back.
exact same thing.
Okay.
I
Any
second
further
Joe's.
discussion on this second motion? No.
Okay, so
Call for it.
everybody's clear what we're voting on here,
The opposite of,
we think. Chairman Hewitt,
no.
Vice Chairman Glass,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy, absent. Commissioner Smith,
No.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam,
Yes.
Commissioner Furtick.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You have a tiebreaker?
No one was persuaded within those last few minutes. Now, for general business items 1 and public hearing item 1, I'm going to recuse myself because I live within 500 feet of both those places, so the chair will be required.
Okay.
So this is 215 Beacon, right?
Let's see, no,
208.
item 208
208.
Whitley,
Whitley?
That was the, sorry, 208
and
Whitley.
then it jumps to, and 261 East
Okay.
Whitley. I'm going to go hang out in the back. Be sure to call me when this is done.
Yeah, I'm hoping you won't duck out early, Eric.
What's that? You hoping-
Yeah.
I won't sneak, no, I won't sneak out of it, I promise. Thank you.
Okay, I've got to recuse myself too.
Ah,
Okay.
Down to a skeleton crew.
Down to skeleton.
Okay, so we've got a quorum of 4 for 208 Whitley Avenue, correct? That's the item
Yep.
we're moving to? Okay.
Susanna, you want to read what we've?
All right, so the first item of general business is an application for a site plan approval of a remodel and addition with an existing duplex at 208 Whitley. The applicant, Monica, and the structural engineer, Tim Canby, are here in the audience for any questions. It is categorically exempt from environmental review under CEQA. And the planning commission will have to consider staff's recommendation that the project is in the coastal zone, but is exempt from a coastal development permit, according to municipal code section 9-8.102B2. It's in the high-density residential zone. The lot is legal and conforming. This is part of a 2-phase project, so they've already started work on phase 1, which included all non-permittable work, mostly interior remodeling. And then they decided to bring this phase of the project to the Planning Commission. So it mainly involves a third-story addition on the back structure on this lot. Currently, there are 2 existing duplexes, one in the front, one in the back. So this one involves the back structure, the one that's farther up the street. The reason it's coming to you today is because it does not qualify as a minor renovation. But just to clarify, the only entitlement here that we're looking to approve is a site plan. It does not create a new bedroom, kitchen, or bathroom, but it is an expansion of living space. It's an open floor plan. We've confirmed with Edison that they do not need a water allocation. Staff is recommending that the commission make the findings that it is compliant with the annual growth policy, the various findings to approve the site plan, find it exempt from CEQA, and exempt from a coastal development permit. And I do have some updated plans if you guys would like to view them in person, or I can pull them up on the computer as well.
What do you guys think? You want to say?
You guys want hard copies, or do you want me to pull them up on the screen?
If you've got copies, it'd be easier.
I can share one with her.
Okay.
She's got it. I saw her.
Do we have any questions of staff before we go on to open a public hearing? We want to see them.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Okay, and I've left some additional copies of the updated plans on the table by the water cooler if anybody's interested. And if anybody wants to request that I put them up on the screen, again, we can do that too.
Any questions for staff before we open public hearing? Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to speak for or against on this matter? Please come forward, state your address and your name. Do all rush at once.
This is only the back unit, right?
Correct.
Just the back, top back. No one wishes to discuss? We'll close public hearing.
Oh, I have a question for the applicant.
Is the applicant here too? Come
Could
on
the
up.
applicant come forward?
Yeah, come on up.
Okay,
Would you
so,
state your name and your address for the record?
My name's Monica Camby, and my address is 208 Whitley Avenue.
Thank you.
okay, so you do want to have a roof deck on the addition?
That has been removed.
That has
so
been
there,
removed, that's not part of
So
it
just
now?
a third floor, multi-purpose space, and there's a railing around it.
Okay, well, the plans show stairs going up to the roof. What would be the purpose of the stairs if you're not going to have a roof deck?
Well, perhaps for
Um,
future.
I don't know if you can,
Okay, which
here.
paper are you? Oh, okay, so, I don't know if it's clear which one you're looking at, but there is an existing staircase, and it goes to the second unit. And there is a, additional staircase to enter the back, it's the third floor, and there's a door.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So are you going to have a flat roof then? Is that still your
yes,
intent?
there's gonna be a flat roof.
Okay.
So Bruce, you're looking at this one with a set of
These
stairs
right
coming
here.
on the
Yeah.
backside of it to that roof.
Yeah,
Yeah, why would they exist otherwise?
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Any other discussion amongst ourselves?
You're adding a whole third level, Bart? You're adding a whole third level?
Add a third level to the back. This is what Bruce was speaking of right here.
Here,
It's
right?
these stairs coming to that. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Any other discussion amongst, any other questions?
I just wanted to note, Suzanne, do we have any call-in for this item? Understanding it's not a notice public hearing, but in case anyone's on the line for this item.
We have no public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from the public wish to speak on this matter before we close the public hearing? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Anybody care to make a motion? Or any further discussion?
Well, it's quite a task they're taking on. That's all I have to say. God bless them. And I would move for approval incorporating all of these staff recommendations, including CEQA, coastal exemption from the coastal development permit, approve the site plan, and find that it's allowable under the 22 growth policy.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Call for a vote?
Vice Chairman Glass,
Yes?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Fertig.
Yes.
And I would note that Commissioner Hewitt and Commissioner Putnam have recused themselves.
Okay.
Do you want me to go get them, or are they?
No,
still-
they're
Oh,
both
for
out on
both?
this one too, I
Okay.
believe.
Do you have plans for this one too?
All right, so similar to the last item, I do have some additional documentation, including some background on the previous approvals, a set of previously approved plans, as well as the minutes from the previous meetings. So I'm going to go ahead and hand that out to the commissioners right now. I'll also have extras available for members of the public, and we have electronic copies available to pull up on the screen if anybody wants to discuss anything in particular.
Bruce? Bruce? Here you go, Bruce. This is the November one.
Oh, thank you.
This is staff correspondence.
Is this, are you missing that?
Oh, now we're on number 2. We're on 261, East Whitworth.
Oh, so you were right.
So I just want to be clear, so Commissioner Putnam, you recused on 208 Whitley, and I just wanted to confirm, and so you're back for the 261 East Whitley continued
Yeah.
public hearing?
Yes, because I own property in the 100 block of Whitley. So that's why I left for the 208. But
Okay.
I'm nowhere close to the East Whitley one.
Okay, so you're not within 1,000 feet of 261 East Whitley?
No.
Okay. And Susanna, just a note, so we're providing the commissioners with some additional material, is that correct?
Is this one on? Yeah, providing some background correspondence between staff, the applicant, and various professionals, as well as the previous set of approved plans and minutes. And I'm going to have the public comment letters available by the water cooler. Just read them into record. Okay, we received 3 written public comments before the start of this meeting, so I'm going to hand them out, and they'll be available copies, hard copies as well.
Thank you.
While Susanna is putting together those revised packets, and apologies, Commissioner Putnam, I just want to be sure. It looks like 208 Whitley and 261 East Whitley are relatively close in proximity, just a 0.1 mile. So I want to ensure there's not a conflict out that requires you recuse in terms of a property interest within 1,000 feet of that property.
Well, in the past, we've had something with a circle around it to show what was in or out of, and the East Whitley is out of by circle.
Okay, I think my recommendation would probably be because of the close proximity to recuse, because it looks to me like they're fairly close.
No, I'm not that close, okay? So
Could we clarify, could we get the property in question?
yeah, 117
117
Whitley.
Whitley.
And Isaac, what's the distance requirement again?
1,000?
Within 1,000 feet is a potential conflict of interest for real property interest of $2,000 or more.
Okay.
1,000 feet?
It used to be 500.
It's between 500 and 1,000, depending on if the financial effect is reasonably foreseeable. And it looks to me like 117 Whitley and 261 East Whitley are about a 0.1 mile away.
From each other?
So I think
From-
my recommendation, I think, would then be to recuse in the interest of being conservative on that, and we can provide additional guidance to the commission. Alternatively, we could take a 5-minute recess if we wanted to be sure.
What would you like to do? Do you want to take the 5-minute recess to be sure?
Yeah. I mean, I've done other things on East Whitley and further up Whitley. So,
We adjourn for 5 minutes? Try to straighten this out?
I think so, because I'm still kind of reading up on,
Yeah, there's a
on
lot
this
to read, so-
information.
Is that good with everyone? Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to close the meeting for 5 minutes. We're back on.
We appear to be back on. So now that we're on, I just want to confirm that City Public Works Director Bob Greenlaw has confirmed through the GIS system that these two properties in question are 660 feet apart.
And one note from me just on the record. So Commissioner Putner, just to be clear, being within 1,000 feet, I just want to ask and confirm that you don't feel there is a financial impact or foreseeable effect in reviewing this application based on the proximity of the property you own at 117 Whitley.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, you want to bring us back up to speed? You've given us lots of paperwork.
You guys asked me for more information last
Yes,
meeting.
yes,
and
we did.
I took you serious.
Thank you.
If anybody wants me to repeat any of the information included in the original staff report, I'm more than happy to do that. It has not been significantly revised other than I included a vicinity zoning map that shows almost all of the vicinity zoning is high-density residential. Just that one strip of East Whitley is medium density. The level of density for our residential zones determines your setbacks. In medium density, the setback requirement, as we all know, is 10 feet. In high density, it is 3 feet. So I just wanted to point out, most of the surrounding properties are required to maintain 3 feet of separation between structures and the lot lines. And that this structure would also be 3 feet from the lot line. And then as for the supplemental documentation that we passed out earlier, I wanted to provide a set of the previously approved construction plans because I had multiple requests from commissioners and the public to review these. And we can pull them up on the screen as well if anybody wants to look at a specific plan page or anything. But we included plans, we included the minutes from the 2 previous meetings because I know there was some confusion about the approvals and how many times it went exactly. So those are for your review. And then more of the new documentation that we're presenting, I think is really essential for finding the, for the findings of the variance. So staff is recommending approval of this variance because variances are issued when there are extenuating circumstances on a lot, that singles it out from typical development standards. In this case, we had a non-conforming structure. Originally, it was going to be remodeled. And then after construction started for the remodel, between communication with the building official, with professionals like civil engineers, structural engineers, and the applicant, it was determined that it wouldn't be viable to maintain the structure in question that was originally going to be remodeled because of there's a retaining wall that's along the upper lot line of this property. And we got a structural evaluation for it that it was leaning. They would have to put drainage through it. And they were concerned about the integrity of that. They were especially concerned because of its proximity to the main house. Originally, the house went all the way up to the upper property line, which is, just to clarify, not the variance that we're going for right now. So out in the field, as the building official and the engineers and the applicant were monitoring progress and trying to maintain public safety and minimize risks and everything, the integrity of the retaining wall came into question. There was an evaluation done on it, and we have included some correspondence with staff recommendations. The soil on the property as well, there were some concerns about the soil and the foundation and how it could continue to support a structure if it were to be maintained and remodeled as opposed to demoed and reconstructed. And we also included correspondence on that. And so in summary, as the construction was being monitored, it was determined that it would be in the applicant's best interest and in the general public's best interest to move the structure, to completely demo it, for concerns of public safety, both on their property and if the retaining wall were to fail, for the future construction, and to be able to make improvements to the retaining wall to further stabilize that structure. So I know we were missing a lot of that background at the first meeting, and I apologize that we weren't as prepared, but after a lot of digging, we hope this kind of clarifies some of the questions you have, and if you want to go through any of the background, or if you want to put anything on the monitor, we can do that too.
So basically, in July, we approved the the site plan. Then in between July and now, or when they started the process, the building inspector was going back and forth and making these recommendations. So this all has to do with the matter of the safety. So even though it was a 10-foot at that time, since that, or it's a 10-foot setback, but they want the 3-foot because they took that extra wall down, correct? Everything, they demoed it to nothing. Is that correct?
I think it would be helpful if we had a site plan up while we were
Okay.
discussing this, just because it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to take a second and put the site plan on the monitor.
Does anyone know if East Whitley has always been medium density?
If East Whitley is what?
Always been medium density instead of high density?
I haven't seen any recent rezoning applications, so to my knowledge, it's been medium density, yeah.
Are all the other properties built with a 3-foot setback like this was?
No.
Sorry, what was that?
So this was built in the 60s, right? Isn't that what we were told, and had a 3-foot setback originally? And that wall is the one that got taken down. If it was medium density back then, were the rules different?
The wall that was removed was on the 3-foot setback line. This is not a closer encroachment than the existing wall.
So it's just
So the
same.
variance would be putting them right back
Right.
to where they were, exactly where they'd been for years and years and years.
Yes.
With, I think there's some confusion on this. The back wall is the wall that they're requesting the variance for, where they're not moving the footprint at all. The reason they had to demo the whole structure is because the other side, the other property line, was determined, to be a hazard with the 0-foot setback on the top. So it was a recommendation that they completely demoed it and reconstructed it 3 feet away from the upper property line in order to maintain the integrity of the wall and be able to make improvements and stuff like that.
So out of safety's concern, we basically told them this, they did exactly what we said, and now we're trying to make it, correct it. Does that kind of sum it up?
Correct. The safety concerns led to the full demo and moved the structure down along the property line, but not further into the back property encroachment.
And had there not been a full demo, we wouldn't be having this discussion today.
Correct.
Correct.
Seems pretty simple.
Did anybody want to discuss the plans or have your
No.
questions been answered?
You cleared that up for me. Thank you, Susanna.
Okay. I'll leave the cover sheet up here, and if anybody wants to request that I scroll through it, just let me know.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion with staff before we open the public hearing? Okay. We'll
And
open-
acting chair,
me?
just a note, we'll be reopening the continued public hearing as this matter was originally heard at our
Thank you,
at our
Isaac.
public meeting last March.
So as Isaac said, we'll reopen the public hearing. It's continued from the last meeting. Anybody wish to speak on this matter? For or against? Now would be the time.
Hi, I'm Charlie Camby. I live at 242 Whitley, behind the property. Well, I'm against the Planning Commission granting a setback variance for this property. I feel that residents of our neighborhood, or any neighborhood, have an expectation that the planning and zoning rules be followed and variance not be granted to anyone to accommodate a person's personal gains, desires, whims, when they're unwarranted or to the detriment of others and the neighbors. The proposed variance will shade the neighbors' yards and homes and will put a 20-foot high structure within 3 feet of the neighbors' backyards and go against their expectation that when they purchase their property, that buildings behind them would have a 3-foot setback. I've reviewed this project and looked at the property to gain an understanding of the project. The area where the owners want to build a house is huge. It's a huge, huge area with lots of square footage. And it's easily large enough to build a very large structure of equal square footage to that they desire, and still have plenty of open space for a yard without encroaching into the 10-foot setback. Regarding the size of the property and the yard, I have a photograph of it on my iPad here, and I emailed Susanna a photo of the property, of this backyard and construction site. So if any of you haven't viewed it or have a question about it, that photo is available to show this huge, huge area. I have my suspicions of why they want the setback or don't want that, or want only a 3-foot setback. I speculate that there's a couple of reasons. First is to have a very nice clear view of the ocean down the back of the lots on East Whitley, and the second would be not to have to excavate, or notch into the sloping hillside on their downhill sloping yard, and that's shown there in other views. Regarding this huge wall, 20-foot high wall, you can see that that wall will be right within 3 feet of Rob Frank's house, behind my house, and then the Warner's house. All the existing homes on East Whitley have maintained the 10-foot setback, so granting this variance could start a precedence. The staff report said that the granting of this variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or neighborhood property because the structural footprint will remain almost exactly as it existed since the original construction. But I think there are shortcomings to that statement. The shortcomings of the statement are, first, there are no real original drawings or real firm documentation of where the building was. There's a lot of speculation looking at the old concrete forms. Second, the original structure was said to have been much smaller and lower in elevation and was not 20 feet high, and it didn't shade the neighbors' backyards. Right where this structure is Rob Frank's backyard, and from time to time, tenants in the yellow house there, where, I don't know if many of you remember where Bodie lived, but they would have a morning patio where they'd sit and have their coffee. But now all the sun will be blocked. I think it'll come up in the notes that there may have been some errors from the city, and there'll be comments, I've heard comments, that the toothpaste came out of the tube and it's hard to put it back in. So that's why the city might want to grant a variance. But I think now that the building was torn down, they didn't maintain any back wall that's required, and that now we have a great opportunity to get back in line and make things the way they are or should be and stick to the zoning requirements and have a 10-foot setback. Excuse me. This is a picture of the construction site that you see is really huge. And there's plenty of adequate space in that backyard to build a nice big structure, a nice big home, and still have open space. I think you saw this. Yours, Nick. I don't know if you saw this. But it's a giant area. It's looks like, to me, it's equal to the house that they have in front.
Yeah, more.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Anybody else wish to speak on this matter? Come on up, state your name if you would, your address.
I just want to clarify one item, is about the retaining wall that you spoke about before.
Can you state your name and address, please?
Have you seen this one?
You need a name and address, sir.
My name is Tim Canby. My daughter's at 208 Whitley. But the reason why I want to address this is I was the engineer for this wall. And the way I heard it explained was that this one was made to sound like it's in the back of the house, but this is in the side of the house. And so it has nothing at all to do with the very back wall, which they were referring to. And so that was confusing to me, why they were linked together. And this is only for the side wall, the uphill side. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else that wishes to speak?
And acting chair, just to confirm, if city staff can confirm on the record. Oh, looks like we have an in-person public speaker. I was just going to ask before we close the continued public hearing to ensure there's no one on the line.
Okay, will do.
On Granicus.
Understand.
Okay, thank you.
Please state your name and address, please.
My name is Richard Warner. I live at 306 Whitley Avenue. Thank you for your time. As per the letter I wrote, I was just notes I was bringing up were it was understanding that, you know, since this legal nonconforming building was torn down, that's been nullified, the nonconforming status. That's as per your staff report from last time. And the staff report also went on to state that it wasn't noticed, the setback variance wasn't noticed or discussed, you know, or approved at any of the prior two meetings prior to the last 16th meeting. So, and then it even goes on to say that the building owner determined that the necessary improvements needed to keep the second building were infeasible, so they demolished the entire structure. Now, I heard this discussion here about the conversations having with city staff and all that, and I'm confused even more now because it seems like this wasn't, the setback was never noticed. We never had a chance to speak to the setback variance. But now there's this discussion going on with the city staff or whoever's about how to fix this under safety. And then I don't know if the city is taking on the designing this thing for people, but bottom line is we as the public weren't involved with that discussion because it was never noticed. So all these, you know, fixes and this and that, and we'll do this, that should have been something we should have been privy to, I think. Just that's how I see it. So that, you know, when they decided to tear this down, they had the ability and the opportunity to review the code and just like we all do. We all know what the rules are, the 10-foot setback. You know what, but you know, when this, I've been here long enough to know that when this bone of contention about the one wall thing used to come up, I think it was down the Flats was one of the first ones. And, you know, they wanted to tear it down but didn't want to comply with anything. Well, if you leave one wall, you don't have to comply with anything. I didn't agree with that at the time, I still don't, but that's the rule. That was the rule, okay? Now you've taken the wall out, well, that doesn't apply anymore. So, and I can understand too, on the flats, you know, with the setbacks, it was very tight. You know, people would say, well, we can't do the setback on the flats because you got these are old tent sites, you know, now they're homes. So when they get variances for setbacks on the flats, they use every square inch of that property. And you know what I'm talking about. And you've done many of them. Up here is a whole different story. You've got plenty of space. You have all this area to work with. And now this building is going to be like right in the backyard, 3 feet. It's not 10 feet, it's 3 feet. And before there was a big ficus wall there. That's gone. So now we have to deal with this structure with a deck and all that, which is fine. Have your deck, have whatever you want, but just make it into 10 feet. And in reference to the safety part of it, the setback variance isn't just for having a big space. There's a reason for it, especially in the fire service. You know, when you have a fire, you don't want to have your exposures burned. And this is especially true on a slope. So, and not only that, but the firefighters and emergency personnel have to get in there and fight this stuff. They need space to work. So, and I understand these folks had big plans and ideas, and they wanted to do this certain thing, and maybe they were not aware of all the rules, but we all are, and we follow the rules. And they're asking you for a permission to break the rules here. And in the past, variants have been like, hey, there was a design problem, or I want to go a few inches into this, or at the most a foot here or there, give or take. I got to get a variance because it's not quite fitting for one reason or another. That's understandable. But 10 feet? I mean, really? On a big lot? I don't get it. I get these people probably have big dreams like we all do to do whatever in their dream house, whatever it is, but we all have dreams too. We have invested. The big money that's initially going in this project isn't evident for all of us because we've made our investments or may have to do something in the future. And in the future, we will follow the city rules. And the variances that have applied in the past for legal nonconforming, once you lose your legal nonconforming status, I'm sorry, but the goal is not to keep having more legal nonconforming stuff. My understanding is the goal of the city is let's bring things into conformance with the plan, with the rules. This is a classic one of those examples. They had some kind of, get out of jail free card with this one wall that now I'm finding out isn't even the wall you're talking about. And bottom line is it's gone. So here's the opportunity now to bring it into conformance. And you have one group of people, this one applicant is asking permission. There's several other people in the neighborhood who are saying, please no. You are our representatives. We rely on you to do the right thing. I don't know what else to say about it that I haven't said last time or what is in the letter, but please, we are opposed to it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak on this matter?
Can I clarify some things first, or
Please do.
Yes.
Or-
I'll wait until everybody's done.
Okay, thanks, Suzanne.
I'm Scott Van Every, the owner of 261 East Woodley. And we kind of explained all this the last meeting, but I'll go through it quickly. Around 2 years ago, we showed up at this hearing along with David Zeller, and we were granted a plan. It was to be built on the exact, we were just going to fix the existing structure and modernize it right where it sat for the last 60 years. Before we got started, we had John Gilbert come out, and we had a meeting at the beginning, and he looked at it. He looked at our retaining wall that Mr. Canby was referring to. The retaining wall is approximately 6 to 8 feet tall, and it was within 3 inches of the home. John Gilbert said, look, your wall is slightly leaning. You really should you need to have an engineer look at it. That's where we went and hired Mr. Camby. And he thought that it was an unsafe condition. He also thought that it would be better because we had rotten walls in this thing as well. This was a 60-year-old structure, and it wasn't probably built all that well in 1958. And he's also stated that it would be better if we had a 3-foot setback yard on that one side where this retaining wall is. He said, obviously, if you needed to paint your building, now you don't have to go to the neighbor. If you want to wash your windows, you don't have to go to the neighbor to ask to walk on their yard. Having that setback, since you're redoing the whole house anyway, since the walls are bad, it would be better to have that setback. I then went, so now we have an accepted plan here to be as long as the building was sitting right where it was. I had a new plan built, exact same structure, it looks the same, except the whole building is moved over 3 feet. It would give us this setback yard. It would get us away from the retaining wall that is crooked. And that plan was submitted to the Planning Commission. We were given the go-ahead. They said, basically, you're building the same building, just moving it over 3 feet. We're not blocking any more sunlight. We're not doing anything. Just moving the building over the 3 feet. Planning Commission okayed and approved that plan. So,
Are you talking about the November?
yes.
Then-
I think actually that's in July. That was, the first one started 2 years ago.
Was in the site plan in July?
That's the second
Correct.
one, yes.
And then November
You know,
planning
I don't
was
know
just
the
for
exact-
a variance for a chimney height.
Yes, at that point, Pete Edwards showed up here for us, just about the chimney.
Yeah, that was just the chimney. That didn't have anything to do with
Had
the
nothing
setbacks.
to do with the site plan.
Okay.
And so the second plan was approved as well. Based on that approval, we went ahead and forward and we tore down the building because
So
we
the
were given
second-
permission by this body to move forward. It wasn't till a month ago that we heard that there was going to be a variance problem. So out of
Okay.
nowhere, we get that. So, basically to settle the safety problems and to keep the building away from the retaining wall, granted, we tore down the building, but it was because we were granted approval by the city to do so.
So I have a question. Dave, did you do the demo?
No.
Were you?
It's
were-
David
who-
Zeller,
were-
5 Cabrillo Drive.
So who was the contractor?
It's a different guy, Joseph Nagel.
So it wasn't Dave Zeller who did the demo?
I just came on board.
Right now? Okay.
Recently, and I'm familiar with the plans. I walked the
Okay, because I
project.
was just confused because he said that you were here.
He
No.
was at the very beginning.
Oh.
But then he had problems where he had too
Okay.
much to do and couldn't do the project and so.
Okay.
But now he's back and doing it.
I'm back on board. I walked the project and trying to, gather all the information, and clearly it's been approved.
Were you here in July?
No.
I didn't think so. Was it Pete?
For the chimney, yes. I was here 2 years ago. or 3
Oh,
years ago.
okay.
So I walked the project, and it's clearly been approved to put it back where it was. And to try to put it back on top of the original footings, foundation, retaining wall, anything they had back there, which was completely inadequate, it obviously had to be removed by these guys who were going to build a new structure. And clearly, to put it back in the same spot, there's going to have to be a much larger retaining wall, much stronger foundation, which is all good for everybody involved. And the thing that Rich Warner was talking about, like, to leave one stick or leave part of the foundation, anymore with engineering, you can't leave part of a foundation. You have to put in a new, proper, approved foundation that's going to meet all code, which they're putting back in the exact same spot that it is. And so for me, it's been approved. Clearly, it needs some structural work along the back wall in the form of retaining walls and foundation, which is gonna be great for the adjacent neighbors. The dirt sloughing, there's a wood retaining wall between this property and the Frank's property that's collapsing. That's gonna get remedied. So the whole back part of the property is gonna benefit dramatically from the retaining walls and foundations that have to go in, including the surrounding properties. So from my perspective, it's been approved and it's being put back exactly where it was. So
Well, just to clarify it, this original site plan was approved at the 3-foot setback, but
Correct.
right now we're approving the variance because it went to non-conforming. So that's why we're here, not,
But at some point, if you're gonna leave a part of a wall
Well, no,
to
I-
keep it conforming, which is
I know, I'm just,
somewhat comical,
but
you
that's,
have to remove that thing to put in the new thing, and it's being put back in the exact same spot.
I'd
I
like to
know.
clarify the setback
And the second plan was
arrangement.
also,
Right.
and the second plan was also approved.
So we have
See
an
that-
approved set of plans to proceed, so it,
As it sits now.
through administrative,
What was that?
they're saying they have approved plans. That was approved with this 3-foot.
With the 3-foot setback, yes.
Yes, you do, when
We do.
they're what, but,
2 sets of plans were sent into the planning division. The first one, right exactly where it was built 60 years ago.
right.
The second one, where it was moved over 3 feet.
which isn't the setback
Both
we're
were
talking
approved.
about. We're talking about the 10-foot setback in the
Okay.
back, which was a 3-foot setback, and it's being put back in the exact same spot. We provided egress down the side because they moved the building over, but that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about here, which is the 3 feet in the back.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
and that's being put back in the exact same spot where it was.
Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, to
Okay.
clarify, the
Yes.
upper side setback originally was 0 feet.
Right.
It is now 3. The back setback that neighbors Whitley was 3 feet, and it continues to be 3 feet.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
So you've taken more setback on one side and stayed exactly
Correct.
where you were.
You're
Yeah.
decreasing nonconformity along the side, and there is 0 change in conformity along the back.
Yeah,
That's making
that's it. Questions?
Appreciate it. I don't have any.
Thank you.
You have to forgive the mask. I have a little bit of a cold. Not the COVID, though. Mark Tasca, 330 Clarissa and 345 Sumner, property owner, past planning commissioner, and employed by the Barretts for 15 years. I might shed some light into the situation. The concrete wall in question was a wall that went from the front of the property back to the back border of the front house. It was also leaning. From the back, from where that property line, let's see, from the back of that wall, all the way to the corner of the property, where Mr. Warner's property is, was a grape stake fence with vines on it. It was not a wall. The back of the property had a grape stake fence 3 feet approximately from the downhill side of the ficus. Now, I see a lot of issues here where just wrong. I don't see how you could have a 3-foot setback with the proximity of all the houses and have a fire. What happens? It's 3 foot, you got to have at least 2 foot for a pack, and by the time they're going to enter from the front, they're not going to go from the back. There's plenty of property there for whatever needed to be built. And I don't see the purpose, since it is medium density, and you're going to ask for a variance to the law. Houses on the mainland, like the Yamaha building, they were forced to put a 10-foot setback behind the building. So it has been done, medium density, 10-foot setback, end of story. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else we'd like to hear from? Anybody want to have John?
Okay.
Please come on up.
My name's Tim Canby. I'm the engineer for this supposed retaining wall. I want you to know that what Mr. Avery talked about me has nothing to do with the back property line. I was never involved in that at all, and that's a misconstrual of what has happened. And so, and also these plans were done on July 2021. I know that all that house was torn down way before that. So, I think the timeline, I don't know if you know what the timeline is, but it seems like it's impossible that I could have had anything to do with that back wall, and I didn't. I never looked at that thing. The whole house was torn down. So anyway, I want to let you know that.
Thank you. Susanna, you still wanted to clarify? Sorry.
Just to clarify, we are not referencing the back wall when we're involving Tim Canby's structural evaluation. We were solely referencing the side retaining wall between 261 and the neighboring property up the street.
And this is where we've moved 3 feet off of that wall from where we were originally.
Yes. I believe there also is a retaining wall in the back between that property and that property, but we haven't included any discussion on that wall.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter before we close the public hearing?
And do we have any online comments?
Yes.
We have no online comments.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Discussion amongst ourselves.
Well, I'll start. We're here to hear a variance request for the rear yard. That's the simple declarative statement about this thing. They have lost their legally non-conforming status. So they can either, the only way this thing can be approved is if we grant a variance. There was a lot of, I cannot buy the hardship of this property owner needing to encroach 7 yards into the rear yard setback. There is a lot of, it's already been noted by some of the neighbors, there's a lot of land back there. This is not like a flats lot where everything is used up down to the last inch. They've got a lot of property. They've lost their legally non-conforming status. It's no different than if the house had burned down. You know, your house burns down, that's really rotten luck. And it's really rotten luck if that includes legally non-conforming status, because that goes away with the flames. And it's the same thing here. So I don't see it as a hardship, and I will not be voting for the variance.
I don't completely agree with you, Bruce, and the reason being is it sounds to me like these folks were depending on what the city was doing, what the city was telling them about moving the whole thing. They've come into us twice. Everyone had a chance to speak then about where this back thing sat, because it's at that time it sat 3 feet from the back of the lot. And now we're telling them they can't do it. That doesn't seem right to me. Some of you would like to change what has happened in the past, but it was still sitting there. Nothing has changed. The side neighbor has gained 3 feet of space between the houses, and nothing will change in the back of the house. So I mean, the way I look at it is, everyone's trying to rewrite 60 years of history because they took down the last wall on that foundation on the back. When they were going to do the foundation, they had to take it down anyhow. You had to redo the foundation. The city approved it. We're here to clean up the mess. That's how I look at it. I don't know about the rest of you, but none of the neighbors, nothing's changed that lot. That thing would still be sitting right where it sat before. And you've gained 3 feet on one side. So.
Well, we are cleaning things up. I mean, and to answer somebody's question earlier, the zoning ordinance we have now didn't exist in '61. That all got changed, you know, with the I don't know, late 70s, early 80s to with the ordinance that you would recognize today. And you know, there's reasons for all this. And if they were able to build onto what they already had, well, that would be one thing. But because it's gone, and it is, nobody's disputing the fact that it's gone, it's not there anymore, and it doesn't, there's no status that goes along with that. So I'm still voting against it.
Any discussion, any motion?
Could I clarify a couple things?
Sure.
Okay, so for the safety concerns, I did want to just put it into record that the entire project is being fire sprinklered and that the back property does include a 24-hour firewall. We already clarified the whole connection between the side property line and the back property line. Just wanted to reiterate the variances for the back property line. There's no change in the setback. And then I did want to clarify really quick, if a structure did burn down or was destroyed by a natural disaster, our nonconformity code would allow you to rebuild.
Right where it is.
So if you consider, you know, the integrity of the retaining wall to be connected to some kind of a natural disaster.
Does anyone have a timeline better, like what he said? The structure was gone, then he inspected the sidewall. I mean, would John know what the timeline on that was, or?
So I have the 2 previous dates of review in the staff report, and then the emails that I included to you guys should be timestamped as well.
We want to talk to John. We need to reopen the public hearing. If we wanted to talk to John, would we need to reopen?
You have a question for staff, yes. You can.
It's just staff at this point. Gotcha. Care to speak for us?
Hello, I'm John Gilbert, building official. And as far as a timeline, the building was demolished just after he had proposed sliding the building over 3 feet to gain some room on that side. And the building was unfortunately demoed under no permits. And so then we had to issue a stop work notice. And then there were some delays because of asbestos content and other things. Then when they finally got to digging the foundations, that's when I observed the setback on the rear and brought it to planning department's attention.
So it was demoed before?
It was demoed before permits were issued. Yes, it had been approved by the commission.
Correct.
And that 3-foot setback to the existing structure was not addressed at that time.
But it wouldn't have been because it was not supposed to be removed, right?
Right.
I mean, it was a non-issue.
Correct. There wasn't a need for a variance, and that's why it wasn't noticed. As I believe somebody mentioned earlier, there was no public notice for a variance because it was not conforming, and they were going to be retaining part of the structure. After it got demoed, the need for a variance arose, and this is why we're having this current public hearing.
Correct. But that would have been the opportunity to advise him to leave that lower wall would have come at issuance of the demolition permit.
So if he would have come, you would have told him that?
I didn't have the opportunity. Any other questions?
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Any motions, any more discussion?
Motion for denial.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
A point of clarification for the motion maker. Because there wasn't a denial resolution within the staff report, we would need to have just the findings for what within the variance findings could not be met, and then the city would bring back that denial resolution on consent next month. So I know there was a note, Commissioner, about the hardship argument, and that is there is a denial finding about the strict application of the zoning ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. There are 4 different findings. So for the benefit of staff, we would want as part of the motion the reason that the variance would be denied.
One moment. Isaac, can I just clarify that the issue on the agenda is a motion for a variance? Isn't that what they're voting on? And if they want to vote no, they can vote no on that. But it's a motion to approve the variance, and they can vote yes or no, as compared to changing the motion and making it a motion for denial. Is that?
Well, if the motion is to vote no on the variance, which is my understanding of the motion on the floor, we would just need the denial findings as part of that formal action for purposes of preparing that denial resolution and next steps associated with the application.
Okay, well, if I understand this, and I would amend my motion for denial to include the finding that the case for hardship was not met. Is that okay?
We would, I'm sorry to be nitpicky, could you include a reason for the reason why the unnecessary hardship finding cannot be met? And that would be included with the denial resolution next month.
Okay. It would be that the applicant has not made a compelling case that this project needs a zoning ordinance variance for the rear yard because of hardship. It is a matter of choice at this point how the applicant wants to build their property, and there is no compelling reason that it is a hardship. Am I getting anywhere?
I've included the variance municipal code on the screen if that helps at all.
Yep, I think that helps staff depending on how the commission votes. So I appreciate the amendment of the motion to deny based on the failure to meet the unnecessary hardship finding as described.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds like we have something to vote on.
All right.
Any more discussion?
Oh, Sandy, are you?
Sandy seconded?
Were you as amended?
As amended. Call for a vote. So a vote on this one is going to be yes to deny.
Yes means no.
And no, yes means no. Means no variance, correct? Yes.
Isaac, is that correct?
A yes is no, no yes.
Vote in favor would deny the variance?
Would deny the variance, correct, and then the public hearing would conclude, and at the next meeting on consent would be that denial resolution. That would be the formal action based on tonight's vote, if approved.
Makes sense. Call for a vote.
Right. Vice Chair Glass?
No.
Commissioner Smith?
No.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Fertig?
Yes.
And Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Wait,
Correct?
I messed up. I was confused.
Okay.
Wait,
So yes
I'm
means.
sorry.
Yes means you vote for a denial. No means you
Want the
want the variance.
okay, so my apologies. I mean no. Can I do that?
Isaac, can we do another roll call vote?
Can we do that?
I would recommend, yep,
I'm
just
sorry.
to note on the record for clarification purposes before we do another roll call vote. The motion on the floor, first and seconded, would be to deny the resolution that approves the variance. So by voting yes to deny, you're voting not to approve the variance. And so if the first and second remains on the floor, then we could do a new roll call vote.
I'm sorry, yes, please do so.
All right, Vice Chair Glass,
No.
Commissioner Smith,
No.
Commissioner Say,
No.
Commissioner Furtick,
Yes.
and Commissioner Putnam.
Yes.
So Isaac, would we need another motion to pass this then?
Correct. Yep, that is correct. The motion failed 3-2 to deny the variance for the reasons stated on the record. And so, yes, there would need to be either a motion to approve or another action item.
I make a motion to approve the staff recommendations for this variance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Call for a vote?
Vice Chair Glass,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Furtick,
No.
Commissioner Putnam.
No.
Done? Motion pass? Okay, so we call back in our chair?
Sorry, I just was so
Stupid, wouldn't it?
Okay. Where are we now? Where are we? 1, 2, 3.
All this is moving. I said all this and moving too, I'm impressed.
Okay, marked in.
Yeah, because the back of the house kind of has that slope or that angled entrance. Because we're all close to them.
Wait, what number are we on?
Number 2.
Ah, wait.
Sorry. 103.
Okay, I was like, what?
So we considered general business item number 1, we considered
Okay,
public
yes.
hearing number 1, so now we're on public hearing number 2.
Okay.
Doesn't take a lot to confuse us.
Could you adjourn the meeting?
I do apologize, I was moving apartments all week, so I thought I was going to have a little bit more time to prepare, and I'm also working without Rocio, who
Understand.
obviously is a huge help. So I appreciate your patience with me.
Understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ready? Everybody's ready? Okay, public hearing number 2, staff report, please.
So much paperwork.
All right, so item number 2, the public hearing, is an application to turn a commercial retail store into a ice cream shop. It is in the commercial zone, while retail is a permitted use, and that was the use historically. Any kind of restaurants, bars, or cafes are conditionally permitted, so they would have to apply for a new conditional use permit in order to continue with the operational plans. The project is in the coastal zone and is subject to a coastal development permit. And it's also staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission find it within the 300-foot appealable seaward area boundary. The project is categorically exempt under Section 15305 of State CEQA guidelines. And I just want to clarify, while the address on the application and kind of the colloquial address is 103 Pipley Beach Road, the situs is 702 Crescent, which is the address on file with the county assessor, in case that led to any confusion. We also have the APN number as well to specify exactly what property we're talking about. Right, staff recommends that the Planning Commission make the findings as required by the 2022 growth policy that the proposed business operation would not have a growth-inducing effect. I did want to clarify that the change of use will require approval from Southern California Edison, and that has not been turned into staff yet. So as part of, like Isaac was mentioning, we'll be reviewing the resolutions on the consent calendar at the next meeting, and that would be included as a condition of approval in that resolution that Edison signed off before they can receive a certificate of occupancy.
So did we already, Edison just hasn't been notified, or they haven't applied, or?
I know that Edison, my special insight with Edison has informed me that because they're doing some procedural changes, I know that they are on hold with issuing letters at this time. So until they start issuing letters again, is when we would follow up with them.
So would this require water?
They would either have to turn in confirmation that it does not require water or turn in a water allocation.
Okay.
The project is in a existing kind of multi-use commercial area, mostly visitor services establishments. It's right after you get off the boat. So the commission would have to find that it is in conformance with the annual growth policy. They would have to approve the site plan. We would be issuing the conditional use permit. We would be finding it exempt from CEQA. And we would also be issuing a coastal development permit for the change in intensity of use. The property is also in a FEMA designated special flood hazard area, so any of the proposed renovations would have to be in compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program as well. But that would be part of the standard building and planning check. We've provided some additional plans that are mostly conceptual. They have not been officially signed off on as far as building code and planning yet. But they've been provided for your review just to get an idea of what their intent is. And if those design qualities require further entitlements, that would always, of course, come back to the commission.
Susanna, I drove by there and I was not sure which one it was. Is it the clothing store that's there that's kind of a big wide open front?
Yeah, it used to be a clothing store. Do we have the applicant in the audience to clarify?
There's a new clothing store that's there.
This is the one, it's the one that's right next to the Conservancy.
So it's that lower one.
Oh, okay. They're not
They're not here.
They're not here?
It looks like they are not here.
Probably
but I
didn't think
put,
it'd be this hard to open an ice cream stand.
May not be.
So on page 2 of the staff report, I do have their APN map. It looks like the lot probably has a couple structures on it. It is a multi-tenant, existing facility.
So there's tenants upstairs, correct?
Oh, I meant commercial multi-tenant.
That's why it was confusing, because there's
Okay, so
it
it's
looks like
not-
there's two shops, and then you walk in so I just wasn't sure which, is it half of it, or is it all of it?
Is it the whole bottom floor?
Let me grab a set of the plan. I think the plans are a little misleading because they didn't include any of the neighboring commercial tenants.
Right, okay.
But it is within that.
Okay, awesome.
row.
It's the little shack down there. Judging by that front elevation.
Any other questions for staff? Let's get into it. Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak for or against or provide information?
Anything online?
Anything online? Thank you.
That's why I like that to end.
Nothing online.
Nothing online? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Any general discussion or motion?
Just general discussion. This looks like another heroic undertaking to me. But I went there because we didn't have benefit of plans, just to look at, kind of get an idea of what was going on there. And I'm pretty impressed. So that's my only comment.
Any motions?
I'd make a motion to approve with all staff recommendations.
And I'll second, which includes water, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we're
it's
good.
really
Has to have that, yeah.
So they had 5 recommendations, and we added a
Perfect.
6th, I think, which was,
I believe we include the water
You're at
allocation in the standard list of
Oh, okay.
conditions of approval for all conditional use permits, and those will be included in the resolution on the consent calendar at next meeting for your review.
Thank you.
so everybody's clear what the motion is?
Mhm.
Any further discussion? Call for a vote. Please.
Commissioner Hewitt?
Yes.
Chairman Hewitt? Vice Chairman Glass?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Fertig?
Yes.
And Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
This next item I have to recuse myself from. Too close. I live too close.
Not so fast.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
surprise, we're letting you guys out early.
Oh, okay.
Staff did not have adequate time to prepare the report.
Susanna, sorry to interject, but we have 82 Hamilton Cove, correct?
So-
You're
It says
right, sorry.
82 Playa Azul, yeah.
Yeah, Playa Azul, that's what I was
Hamilton.
recusing
Oh, okay,
myself from.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah, okay, I'll be sure to get you. Yeah, that'll be a minute. Okay, item number 3 on the public hearing. Staff report, please.
All right, we have an application for a transient rental license and coastal development permit for Unit 82 Playa Azul, located in Building 8 of Hamilton Cove condominiums. The applicant / owner are Mark and Carol Forbush. The zone is low-density residential. The saturation analysis is waived for transient rental units within the Hamilton Cove condominiums. The property consists of 1 unit that contains 1 bedroom and 2 bathrooms. There's a floor plan attached for your review as well. The property manager for the unit will be Catalina Island Vacation Rentals. The property is exempt from needing a water allocation, as well as further environmental review under CEQA guidelines. The proposed project involves a request for approval of a transient rental application to allow Unit 82, Playa Azul, to be used as a transient rental under Section 9-6.602 of the AMC, which requires approval of a transient rental license by the Planning Commission. This also requires the issuance of a coastal development permit, which the Commission will have to consider staff's recommendation that the project is within the 300-foot appealable zone. As well as in conformance with the Coastal Act. Staff is recommending that the Commission find the application allowed under the 2022 growth policy, and that they make the findings to approve the transient rental license as required under Section 3-1.310B of the Avalon Municipal Code. We've attached the standard list of conditions for transient rental licenses as Exhibit A, and I don't believe we have any added conditions. That concludes my staff report. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff before we open the public hearing?
I have no questions.
Seeing none, we'll open the hearing. Anybody wish to testify for or against, or provide information on this proposal? Seeing none, anything over the internet?
No e-comments.
Okay, last chance, close the hearing. Any motions?
Well, I've got a motion for approval because denials are really rough. So I move for approval with the staff recommendations and findings.
I'll
Okay.
second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for vote.
Chairman Hewitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Say,
Yes.
Commissioner Furtick,
Yes.
and Commissioner Putnam.
Yes.
I'll go Mark. Okay, and item number 4 has been withdrawn or just,
So as I alluded to before, staff did not have adequate time to put together the report materials for you guys to consider this application for a rezone. It is a city-led application. And I think our direction from legal is that we open the public hearing and we continue it until the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting, if you should desire to do so.
sure, if that sounds like a good way to do it, we'll do it that way.
We would, Chair, we would actually take a vote just to open and continue the public hearing till the May regular meeting.
So I believe you're saying we have to roll call vote that decision?
Sounded right.
Before we open the hearing? Would we open the hearing,
You
then
can-
take a vote
no,
to
you can-
continue it?
Yep, you can open the public hearing and then do a vote to continue it. That works.
Okay. Any questions for staff before we open the public hearing? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to continue this hearing? For all the reasons that were
I make a motion to
stated.
continue this hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just clarifying, we're going to continue the hearing until the next regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you for
Yes.
that clarification.
All
And
right.
Call for a vote.
Chairman Hewitt?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Glass?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Furtick?
Yes.
And Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
It's a hand raise.
I saw a hand raise.
I was just trying to confirm what we're referring to, item number 4.
Yeah.
I think I might have a different, or is this 2060 Whitley?
Yes.
Okay.
Did,
So there's no opportunity for any public comment tonight?
We don't have any materials prepared.
Yeah, there's nothing before us. It sounds like the notice was not done properly, so we're going to extend it
We're a little overambitious on this one.
for the record, but there's really nothing
But
to
you guys
comment
made a
on.
special trip here to be here just for this item,
Glad you
didn't
guys were sitting here for the whole meeting.
Can't they,
Can we?
they're
allow them
here
to
if they
speak?
Well, we
want to
can-
make a
Did
statement?
we close the public hearing?
We just extended it.
Oh.
And I don't think it's appropriate to get into the guts of it because there's nothing before us. However, we do have items of discussion next. So I think the public can talk about whatever they want.
Isaac, can we get some direction on this?
I think the chair has a good concept. I believe if the agenda says there's a place for general public comments, it would be appropriate to allow it during that time and before the materials are before the Planning Commission for another public hearing, the continued public hearing. So I think what the chair recommended works.
but Isaac, I do have a question regarding that. So, on number 4, though, if they wanted to discuss number 4 and put it on public record, the comment that's reflecting on this item, because public discussion doesn't really reflect any.
Correct. It wouldn't be
So-
a part of the hearing, but it would be something they can present.
No, I know it's not part of the hearing, but if they're discussing if they want to speak on the 4, then it's not on.
It would not be included as public
That's what
comment
I'm-
for the
For
item.
the item is what I'm saying, and I think that's what they were here for.
Correct, but they could also submit comment before the next regularly scheduled meeting
Okay.
to me electronically in person
Okay.
or attend that meeting as well.
Okay. I mean, we could still love to
Yeah.
hear what you have to say, of course, but I just wanted to, like, if it was regarding 4,
You want to show up again.
you want to show up again or
Provide written.
provide written.
I can just tell you what I think.
Okay.
Okay, and
Absolutely.
so we're on to items of discussion. Anybody out there want to say something about anything?
I can come back because I have a house here.
Oh.
so.
Okay, good.
So my name is Mark Hunter. I live at 138 Whitley Avenue, and my property backs up directly to the project that you are discussing for low to medium income housing. And so I have a lot of concerns on changing what was commercial to high-density housing. My partner and I are developers, and we actually walked the property to look at possibly buying it and then developing it, but because it was commercial and not high density, the numbers didn't quite work out the way we could possibly make them work out. We do have concerns that such a fantastic property and with such views and where it's located, that it could be better used for other things if the city decided to sell it. I have personal issues with that because I actually live there. I live right next to it. So I get to hear those cars go up down Whitley all the time. It's really fun. They all go the wrong way, which you all know. It's a one-way street, so I don't know how you're going to get around that unless you're going to make everybody go around and come back into that property. I'm guessing you're probably going to put parking in, on-site parking there, which is an issue. You know that whole street's a parking problem. That corner happens to be a very suspect corner to begin with the property that's on the other side of that. Lots of drugs and other things go on up there because that is a very dim-lit street. And they all know that they can go sit in that corner and have a good time, and I witness it personally from my house. So it's not anything that it's just hearsay. It's what I see. So on that, I'm kind of concerned about when putting in a high-density, low-income property up there, What are you gonna do on the one-way street? Does it now become a two-way street? I don't understand how that's gonna work unless,
Isn't it one, it's two ways to the corner. You just can't turn the corner.
it's one way. It shows one way. It has one way in. There isn't enough room for two cars to get out. So everybody goes one way and parks one way and then rolls down the street to come out. And they love to bump into my fence that Phil made for me, which is really cool. So I have concerns about all that, and I'm sure that when we proceed with the next meeting, we can look at that. But that's kind of what I'm concerned about, and I think Pat might have something to say too.
Yeah, I think just from a planning commission standpoint.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Patrick Doyle. I'm not the property owner. Mark is, but I'm his business partner. So the idea that the property is owned by the city, they're looking to change the zoning for their own lot, changing the use from commercial to, I guess, high-density residential. The idea that we did actually walk the property a few years ago with a few city representatives when it became evident at the time that the city overpaid for the parcel. It paid $2.9 million for the parcel in 2008, I believe it was. And there was some discussion and some internal rumblings and very, non-official inspection by us of the project to kind of analyze it from a development standpoint to see if we could make some kind of offer to the city to purchase the property and maybe do some kind of land swap or exchange for the low-income housing requirement that I know the city is, obligated to. And I think the concern of Mark, the property owner next door, is that the city is basically kind of playing a little bit of a zoning game because they need to get themselves out of a pickle. They're making a 4 plus a tear down 5th unit into potentially a 10-unit project. Parking is an issue. So there's a lot of impacts on the location, and it is obviously a very valuable site. So the idea that it would be rezoning a particular parcel for the full benefit of the cities exclusively and not benefiting the zoning requirements of the neighborhood or addressing any neighborhood issues, I think is a big concern. And we were just, alerted to this fairly recently. So yeah, we got on the ferry, made a trip over here today to address everybody and try to understand how we kind of get looped into the process that you're going to have to consider for a rezone and what we can do to basically assist with that. Not necessarily being opposed to a low-income housing or income restricted or affordable or however you want to phrase it. And I recognize that the city does need units. What the city really needs is probably middle management affordable units, hospital workers, folks that basically are mid-management. Because I think talking to the property owners and business owners in this whole region, year after year, month after month, the biggest issue they have is finding middle management people because there's no place for them to live. So our concept several years ago was to look at this site, potentially develop it into more than the 4 units that are there now, as a for rent, ideally, or possibly a for sale product. And so that's why it seems like a little bit of an end around to rezone the site specifically because the city overpaid for the property many, many years ago. And I don't think it's financially appropriate for the city to be spending resources to build a income restricted building in a property that's probably one of the finer locations within the city. It's out on a point, it has great views, it has a lot of income potential as a commercial zone property for whatever you would allow to be built there, whether it's a hotel or something of that nature. I think there's higher revenue that could be generated to the city as opposed to subsidizing a property in what's Beverly Hills, basically. So those are the comments that I think I wanted to basically throw out on the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for sticking around.
May want to check back with us next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can have an ice cream at the new ice cream shop.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great night.
Thanks, you too. Any reports from planning department?
Yeah, I have a quick report. I guess just going off of the recent discussion on the need for affordable housing within the city and the appropriateness of our various development ideas, the housing element was submitted to the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development, and they did not certify the element. They reissued a comment letter. So staff is working on making revisions to address those comments. And once we complete that next draft of the element, we will be posting it online and in person at City Hall. And it will be available for a 7-day public review period as well. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to the community for everybody who wrote in during the last 7-day public comment period. I received a lot of helpful suggestions and observations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? City attorney, any reports or a heads up?
None for me.
Yeah, Isaac?
Yep, none for me.
None? Okay. Commissioners? Nothing?
Nothing?
Well, actually, maybe we could clarify how many feet away that you have to be from someplace. Is it 5? Is it 1,000?
Thank you.
Or maybe if it's less than 500 feet, you get to do it. It's only the
Oh.
window between 5 and 1,000 that's in
I think
question.
it's 500 feet is the bird fly, or
I
is the
thought it
crow
was
flies,
500
isn't it?
feet.
We'll get written clarification
Okay.
prior to your next meeting, so everybody has that in front of them.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's more than one answer to that. But anyway, I think that's it. And no other business from the audience? We're adjourned.
Hi, Tony.
Thank you. Good night, Tony.